It's ready.
Right on time.
Oh, did you?
The video, what do I do?
Have we started?
Yeah, sure. We're starting just now.
Share video.
Let's call the meeting to order.
Oh wait, start video? Sorry, I'm doing the tech. Start video.
How is everybody?
Oh,
Good.
share.
As long as you don't have to be outside too much, huh?
That's right.
Unless you have your bathing suit on, I guess.
Or a fan.
Okay,
No.
we are
That's
streaming.
far away.
So we're streaming and recording and you can start the meeting whenever you're ready.
Great, okay. First order of business. Thank you.
Turn your microphone
Turn it
on.
off.
There you go.
Oh, on. Okay, good morning.
And they're sensitive, so you don't have to.
Okay, great. The meeting is called to order. First item is to announce the business meeting. We'll dispense with that Tuesday, July 8th. Next hearing is hopefully in our regular location.
It will be here.
It'll be here actually on Tuesday, July, thank you. Here on July 22nd. And would you swear in the staff, please?
I'm the staff, so
You're
you
the
have to
staff.
swear me in.
Okay, and Adam, I guess too, or whoever wants to
Sure.
testify today. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thanks so much. And would you do the board roll call for us, please?
Yes. Mr. Whitman,
Here.
Ms. Maniaci. Here. Ms. Bartley,
Here.
Ms. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Loversid,
Here.
Mr. Pongonis.
Here.
Mr. Slanet.
Here.
Okay, and Ms. Brittler is absent, but we do have a quorum.
Okay, very good. Could you do the overview of the hearing format for us, please?
Yes, so the city staff will present the staff report and application materials. The applicant will sit here at the presenter table and be sworn in and asked to present their materials. Any speakers will approach the podium. We don't have any today, but if there are any, by chance, they'll be sworn in and provided 3 minutes maximum to speak. And then commissioners will discuss the case and ask any questions if needed.
Very good, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, please? And a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. Are there any questions, comments, additions, deletions? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes are approved. And with that, are we ready for application?
Yes, we are. So this is for 479 North High Street, which is an exterior building alteration. This is right next to, if I go to their materials really quick. So this is right by where the North Market Tower development happened. It's along that alleyway, or what is now an alleyway, behind Agave and Rye. So we're one street over from High Street here. And there are some existing trash enclosures that they're looking to demolish and replace just to make everything a little bit more accessible and aesthetically pleasing. And by doing so, they're going to be removing this fire escape and then replacing it with a slight different configuration. But this is the site that we're talking about today, just to orient ourselves. So here's some existing photos of what we're talking about here. And then this is what is this? Wall Street? Yeah, this is
Vine
Wall
Street.
Oh, Vine Street, thank you. So one of the enclosures will go around the corner, is proposed to go in this area. So we'll do that and I'll read through the staff report. All right, so 479 North High Street is located on the west side of North High Street, bounded by Spruce Street to the north, Wall Street to the west, and Vine Street to the south. The applicant is requesting action on the demolition and replacement of 2 refuse enclosures. The replacement enclosure will be located slightly farther north, with the southern refuse enclosure relocated around the corner onto Vine Street. The demolition of the northern refuse enclosure will also result in needing to partially demolish and rebuild a fire escape stair. The material for the new refuse enclosure on Wall Street will be corrugated metal, and the applicant provides options for the enclosure on Vine Street. Staff notes this application is also under review with the Historic Resources Commission. And I do want to note it went before them last Thursday. That commission did approve it with conditions. And one of them was that they select option C of the 3 options. So you'll see that on one of the sheets. Submitted materials include existing site photos, site plan elevation, and material specifications. And then after review, the guidelines recommend that the built environment be enhanced and energized with new buildings and improvements in the public realm that promote good design, long-lasting construction, and attention to detail. They also recommend the use of high-quality and durable building materials. And further, the guidelines state that dumpsters should be located to the rear of buildings with alley access. In the event that it's not practical, that they be fully screened by use of an access gate and walls and fencing constructed of materials that are compatible with the primary building. And basically, generally, this is consistent with the downtown design guidelines, with the exception of relocating the south dumpster enclosure to Vine Street. And that's just because it's not technically an alley, and that's why it diverges, but it's not that bad. Thank you. And I'll let the applicant go through their materials, and we can start off with the site plan here.
Morning.
Morning,
Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
I'm Matthew Lorenz. I'm with the Department of Public Service Division of Design and Construction.
Great.
I'm the project manager for the streetscape project that the city has undertaken around the new development.
Great. Would you raise your right hand? You swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and so say I do?
I do.
Good. Thank you. Have a seat and join us here. I guess my first question is, why are you saying this? You're not.
So the city of Columbus has been engaged with the development in the North Market and the property owners surrounding the project for a number of years. Due to the different agreements and the arrangements of the development, the city is taking the lead on the design and the construction of these new enclosures. So the first phase that's going to happen is actually the streetscape project, which will come through and demolish the existing sidewalk and existing road of Wall Street, which will necessitate the removal of the fire enclosure and the trash enclosure, right? So the fire escape and the trash enclosure. So we're going to be replacing all of that with different materials, different elevations. And so since our project's going first to do that streetscape, that's the reason that
Will that still Wall Street function as a street, or, because I know they have entrances to the hotel there, don't they?
Correct. It will still function as a street. That's what the purpose is.
Okay.
And so today there is no sidewalk on the east side of Wall Street due to the presence of those two trash enclosures. So with the rest of the improvements that we're doing under the streetscape, we'll add space back so that there is a walkable area that is outside of the street on both sides once the project is complete.
Okay, good. I don't know where we want to go with this. Do you want to walk us through it briefly, or does everybody have a question, or thank you?
Sure.
It looks like you will continue to have sufficient sidewalk on the
Correct.
Vine Streets as well.
Correct. That was the intention. So
The graph that we just looked at Vine Street, it looked awfully narrow.
yes,
Are you widening the sidewalk there?
no, we're not widening the sidewalk.
That's not Vine Street.
That's Wall Street.
Sorry.
Wall Street.
And I'll turn around.
Keep going down.
Was it about 4 feet? I think it.
I believe it's noted on the dimensions. There's a plan view a couple pages.
That's
later.
Wall Street.
Yeah, that's still Wall Street there.
Yeah.
So that. So I think it's about 5 or 6 feet. Ironically, we obviously omitted that dimension, but it's probably about 5 feet. That's what we were shooting for, to at least include a 4-foot par around that side. Around that.
What's the picture of Vine Street?
This shows the side of it.
There, right
Yep.
there.
There it is. And that's the picture.
And that's wide enough for the trash enclosure and 5
Yes.
feet of walking
Yeah.
space.
So
Doesn't look
the
like it.
trash enclosure itself will only be about 4 feet deep, with about 5 feet of sidewalk in front.
I'm concerned about why we're putting trash on Vine Street. I mean, Vine Street's a pretty major access point. It's a very busy street. It's a lot of pedestrians. Why do we have to put trash there? It's not an alley.
So we, throughout the project, we just completed a utility relocation project as well. in the area that took a whole bunch of overhead utilities underground, including the city's power, AEP's power, and then all the different telecom companies. But Wall Street today is a pretty congested area in terms of utilities. There's water there, there's underground power, there's sewer, there's sanitary sewer. There's so much stuff back there. And then being able to provide a space for walking on Wall Street, we added 2 ventilation vaults on Wall Street right behind the buildings for underground electricity facilities that are in the area. So once those were added and then all the presence of all the other utilities, there wasn't space to put the foundations or the any of the other things that we need to have when we have these enclosures. So instead of just taking away the enclosure and leaving trash to collect on the sidewalk, this was deemed as the next best alternative.
And part of this is taking something off Wall Street, right? Part of this whole process.
Correct.
is You're
It
gonna
will-
take some off Wall Street and kind of,
Correct. It will remove both of those
well, I
enclosures
don't know, that's
that
what
currently.
I've understood the premise to be. I'm not sure I see it on the drawings, but is that what you're contemplating here? Is that what happens?
Yes, we're removing both of those enclosures that are currently.
But-
But you're adding,
But
but you're adding some back.
Correct. We're adding the north one back. We have a little bit more room there. There isn't congestion. So we kept that one at its location and actually increased the size a little bit so that we could do things. And we worked closely with the property owner to make sure that we could facilitate the same amount of trash storage that there
You know,
is.
originally MBBJ told us they were gonna put some of this trash stuff on their side of the street.
Correct. So the North Market or the Merchant Tower, the Merchant Building will have a compactor for the use of all of the owners. That front High Street here, that will be there, but there is a concern also about the distance from the existing locations, especially with Gave and Rye down to that trash and compactor. Trying to get the businesses to walk stuff down there all the time, especially when they're generating quite a volume during the weekends, was a concern. And then this one on the south side on Vine Street is actually much smaller than the one up on Wall. And this one will primarily hold those totes. So it's a little bit closer for them to walk around, get those totes, fill it up with their trash, or that's where it stays until it's too full that they have to take it over to the compactor and then Merchant Building.
it looks to me like you end up with you say there's basically no sidewalk now because the trash bins.
Correct.
And it looks like when you end up, there will be sidewalk, but the way you end up with sidewalk is you expand the sidewalk. Is that correct? You widen it there in your new plan.
At
when
the
you're
north
done.
end of Wall Street, yes, we are widening that in.
Oh, well, I'm just talking about this section right here where you're showing us.
On Vine Street, we're
Yeah.
not widening.
No, just north of Pine Street, on Wall Street, on the east side of Wall Street.
It does look like there's some widening there. That will be a new truck apron.
Yeah,
So it will allow for two-way traffic. So the curb, or one of the curbs, I should say, is at about go.
Right there,
that's
that's-
photo down.
keep it on that.
Let's take it down.
See where it flares out there?
Yes, that's up toward Spruce Street.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was just north of Vine.
Yes,
Okay.
no, that's up towards. So we are widening that out some to, because we have that space there.
Okay.
Can I ask you, so originally you have the enclosure that is under the existing fire escape
Correct.
on Wall Street, and then a little bit south of that on Wall Street, you had, I think, one or two other small enclosures.
There's one more. Yeah.
One more. And now you are, of course, making the new enclosure under the new fire escape, and then you are adding to Vine. So are you adding, what you originally had, versus what you have now, is that the same amount? Or is it a little bit more or a little bit less when you look at what you have existing for your enclosures versus what you will have now?
Was it the same what?
It just, it was the same number of dumpsters, the same volume.
Yeah, Correct. Approximately the one on the north side towards Spruce Street
Mhm.
is very close to the existing volume. The one on Vine Street will actually be smaller. Because
Then-
right now that takes much larger dumpsters.
Mhm.
And the new condition will only have totes and trash cans like you see in a residential type of service. You know, the 95-gallon trash cans that all residents in Columbus usually get when they're not in apartment buildings.
And where exactly was the additional one on Wall Street that is being eliminated?
So that's right behind Bear Burger. It's at the front. It's fun. So,
You can't put it there because of these electrical bolts.
correct. So you see those two electrical bolts right there. And then also, trying to provide that same space and providing walking space there.
Okay.
We couldn't match all of those. So in order to provide a walking space, we would have to make that much narrower. But we couldn't make it wider at the same time. So we looked at a couple of different options, and like I said, the best alternative seemed to be placing it on Vine Street.
So that gray enclosure we see there, that's the one that's really being swapped out and put
Correct.
on, a new one is being put on Vine Street.
That is correct.
What will the person on the sidewalk, the pedestrian walking by, what will they see?
So they will see the new facade that we're planning on putting on Vine Street.
Is
for
that
the
metal or, is it,
The Historic Resources Commission
is that what they're talking?
wanted to see kind of a wood clad similar to what the existing one is, maybe with a different coloring. So they said option C, and option B was one that they actually preferred, which was everything in a similar kind of blue color as what's currently on the building. They felt like that matched the existing building and brick as it was. So it shows two different colors blue here, but those two different colors are meant to indicate a kind of panel system similar to what is currently on the building.
So this is all wood?
It is going to be a metal frame, and they're like the doors are going to be a metal angle iron and stuff like that. We have details for that above, but we will clad it with wood instead of another kind of steel or other product.
So your design inspiration of the freight car, you're throwing out, you're not doing that.
At least on Vine Street, it was thrown out. The Historic Resources Commission felt like that was not appropriate for
They may be
Vine
wrong.
Street set.
I agree. I think it's weird.
What's that?
The wood, I think it's strange. I agree with the sentiment, man, it'd be great to not have trash on
Vine
Right.
Or on Vine.
Either one.
Fine.
Ideally, it's on.
either, ideally it's nowhere, but
Yep.
in an urban environment, we need it, but I don't understand the wood structure. And then the question I have, Matt, is who will maintain this? I assume these are shared facilities, right? So who polices the doors being open, the doors being closed? Who can we call if there's a mess on the sidewalk? Because I think your intention is spot on, create pedestrian accessible sidewalks in this tight environment.
Yep.
Is someone gonna be responsible for maintaining this stuff, or is it the collective responsibility of all the restaurant owners?
So we're still working out those maintenance responsibilities. I believe the intention is for it to go back to the owners, right? So even though they're kind of shared between either different tenants of those buildings, it's still maintained by those property owners.
Yeah,
I do understand that there's forgive me, a new community authority that's being proposed for the area that could be extended to also police this and.
does that cross the street onto these blocks too?
I'm not sure about
It does.
I'm not sure exactly about those details.
This is staff, but generally speaking though, there is 311, right? So any person can call 311, file a report.
Correct.
And then our code enforcement officers within building and zoning services would address the matter with the property owner.
Correct.
And if it were to be an ongoing issue, then there would be fines involved and
Well, who's going to own these? are you folks building this?
So yes,
Same.
yes,
So will you continue, it's in the sidewalk right away, right?
correct.
So do
Correct.
you own these structures then?
No, these will be granted an encroachment easement, similar to what they have today.
So they will own a structure, on property they don't own by right of an easement.
Correct.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is that maintenance, which you guys are gonna have to oversee here is gonna get worked out, is gonna be the property owners, right?
Correct.
And that would be,
Ultimately, it
it's
goes,
like any building that you own, you have a dumpster there.
Correct.
Okay, and you put it back on the tenant. I mean, that's what we do in our buildings. And then we have to make sure that the tenant, and if there's a problem out there, somebody's not putting trash in the dumpster, that gets addressed. And I don't know how far down that road. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think, do we want, oh, no, heck no. And by the way, we can sit here and go back and forth on what the design ought to be. I mean, how far do you go on the design of a dumpster? And by the way, we in our business, as architects and property owners and designers and so on, we've all encountered that. You want a dumpster and you want it to look decent. And I don't know,
Yeah, I only said metal because it seems like it's gonna last a little bit longer but whatever.
that was our preference since it, hey, banging into it and people walking by, jumping off of it. Who knows what they do in the evening, especially in this type of area.
well, they make it look like that box car with the so.
Eventually, maybe, that adds to the maintenance, so.
Well, but you got maintenance with wood or with metal. I mean, very frankly, if it's painted or stained, it's gonna need to be refinished for longer. What's everybody think?
I don't
Questions,
see any
comments?
advantage of putting the wood on this thing and making it look just like the ones you're tearing down. I mean, you're trying to make an improvement. You had an idea that I thought was a good one. The railroad car, it'd be cool to actually use a railroad car. But I don't see that in any of the designs, frankly. The wood just seems like a bad idea to me.
I agree with that. I mean, first of all, I love the idea that you had the railroad card for the inspiration. And like Bob was saying, I don't really see, I think that, I know sometimes less is more and you maybe just want the dumpster to recede. But the one on Wall Street, I'm wondering if, maybe the color is maybe more like the color in the inspiration photo
Okay.
for Pennsylvania. And also, I don't know, I mean, I was thinking this might be an interesting idea that maybe painted on it or somewhere is some sort of reference or allusion to some type of Ohio or Columbus Railroad from the past, because this Wall Street is the front of the new hotel.
Mhm.
People are gonna be walking back and forth, and I think anything that's put there, even if it's functional, should have a feeling of being contributory or visually interesting. So maybe something where there is a little bit more of a connection to, that's a dumpster, but that's interesting. It's, alluding to a historic railroad.
Some of these other,
So that's one thing. And then on Vine Street, again, it is what it is, but maybe as people are walking on that street, maybe on those sides, there's something that can be done on those sides. Either if there's, maybe on either side, some type of
wall.
public
could you go
art.
that way or
or
scroll it
something
down, I guess
that
is what I would.
Makes it seem like we're walking on the street, it's not some kind of obstruction. There's something functional
And we're
here,
gonna
but on
keep
the other
going
side,
down.
there's been an effort to make it
Okay,
a
well,
pedestrian experience, because you're gonna have so
no,
much
that and then
traffic
one more so we
from
can see A,
hotel and
A.
then we're
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
going
Yeah,
to
I'm
the
sorry. I both.
Convention. So those are my thoughts, like pushing the concept to make it more contributory and interesting.
So where are we here today? It sounds to me, so did it get approved by the Historic Resources Commission? Or they're just
Maybe.
saying that they prefer that? I mean, did they say they're not allowing the other ones?
Yes.
Okay, does
So
everybody
it's-
understand that? I don't know where we come out of this, we end up in this group deferring to those folks. Don't they get first shot at it here?
They look at it first.
Well, and
We don't have
if
to-
we can approve something, no, I guess we don't have to approve it, but then where are we? Because they also don't have to approve something we approve. Is that correct?
The order of operations is, cases that are also in the historic district go to HRC first.
Yeah.
And then downtown, so HRC takes a vote, And then if the vote is in the positive, it goes to downtown. And then if downtown were to, you know, deny, it would have to be a denial really, then they'd have to go back to HRC with a new design and then hope the HRC approves it and then come back.
Sure. What's the pleasure for repair? Yeah,
And it's always in the North Market District because there's nothing historic there.
well, except for buildings, some of the buildings.
So the HRC did not like the metal option. They liked.
For Vine Street.
Yes, right, for
Correct.
Vine Street. They liked something that was predominantly wood, or they wanted to see wood on it, or,
They prefer for it all to be wood or very similar.
It was
And,
option.
and the context for the, and the context
what
for
they
the wood
picked,
came from
this
what somebody. put
They
there,
felt
what
that
their-
was more pedestrian friendly and more fitting with the historical nature.
So what's the pleasure of the group here, folks? We've got it. Everybody understands where we are.
I mean, one,
We want to, and then what?
Can I just have one question, then I'll make a motion? What is the color palette of the other one?
Originally, we had that as a dark bronze. And when our feedback from the HRC, we changed it to a blue to kind of match the
Okay.
building. You know, hey,
Motion to approve as submitted. I don't know what to say here.
we could go back, HRC cared less about the.
They matched.
They didn't have as much concern about the one on the north side. So they didn't have a lot of comments or feedback regarding that. We could go back and work with the property owner. They seemed more ambivalent toward, hey, what the actual color was. And the idea from the design team was either trying to match existing features. There's existing black, you know, so hey, going black or going to a dark color would kind of help it blend in with the existing architecture for like agave and rye and things like that, instead of doing a blue. And we could definitely go back and explore that type of thing since HRC had less concern about the Wall Street enclosure.
By the way, are we approving the fire stair as well, man?
So in order to make room and provide that walking space around everything, we're changing the configuration of the fire stairs. Currently, the fire stairs do a switchback design
Yeah.
and come back toward Spur Street. So this one actually elongates the landing and then we'll drop the stairs down so it's headed in the south direction. It will not impede any of the existing doorways that
Sure.
enter or open onto Wall Street.
is that painted? What color is that painted?
I believe the current fire stair is black, and so I believe the new one will be black as well.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
What was the?
The motion is to approve it as submitted, the proposal.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor. Okay. Now we can talk about it. Everybody is yay or nay, and we're gonna put a few minutes here. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay.
So I have two comments. One is Vine Street is a major thoroughfare, major entrance into this district, out of this district, into the lobby of the convention center, like one guy went. And I think that putting trash on there is just wrong, and making it wood seems like to make it even worse. And the other street,
Wall Street.
Wall Street, is becoming, it's going to be the major entrance to this huge new development, and I think it's where the hotel enters.
Yeah.
And I don't see, pardon me, that any of this is enhancing that at all. I think I really think it needs to go back to the design team. I think NBPJ should probably be involved in it, whether or not it's their project or not. It's part of the atmosphere that's going to create the entrance to that tower. And I just don't think that this meets the standard.
I agree with Bob. I think there's a more creative answer here somewhere, and I think it's been explored. On Pine Street, that's a huge, pedestrian connection from the tower to the convention center. To etch it down to 5 or 4 feet, go around the wooden box that smelled like hell is not a good idea. And
I guess I can see both ways. I mean, at a certain point, you need the trash, okay? And by the way, nobody likes it. I don't care. I've never had a building where, you always pick the worst, I mean, the least undesirable location to put the friggin' thing, excuse the expression. And, but on the other hand, I think maybe this is a good time to step back before we say yes, and let's look at this. And part of what would drive me to consider that, we don't want to make life difficult for you, Matthew, but it is. I mean, this, when we get done, this is part of the whole idea that this Wall Street is going to be, it's going to be a different place. It's going to be, and by the way, it has the opportunity to be a very interesting place. I mean, it's this.
Hey, Matt, just
side
on,
street.
on that point, if we were to be more creative on Wall Street, why is one on Vine and one on Wall? Why can't we adjust the curb line along the entirety of Wall Street and create something that's more contiguous rather than a doghouse here and a doghouse there? Is that possible?
So everything with the sacrifice.
Yeah.
So contextually, I will say that while the sentiment may be to make Wall Street something different, we are working with existing property owners.
Yeah.
These existing property owners already feel like they're being
Put it on.
bullied around, essentially, for lack of a better word, from a bigger, sexier development that's coming in.
But if we give them better facilities anyway, the question is,
And so the way that this was designed was trying to make them whole again on what they had. So while I say everything with the sacrifice is because ideally, yes, we could change the property or the curb line. However, all of these businesses here enjoy a loading zone that's currently on the east side of Wall Street. The current design preserves that loading zone so that they can have trucks. That's the reason that a truck apron was designed here on this corner that we're looking at, so that big delivery trucks for all of these businesses can continue to turn left northbound onto Wall Street and pull up right behind those businesses and unload or take on I think it's the waste materials.
if we have,
Wall Street one way.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So, yes, we went through a lot of different iterations on the character and the nature of Wall Street and how that was going to play. So Wall Street in the future today it is one-way northbound. In the future condition, it will be two-way down to the entrance for the new merchant building, right? So, but it will have a restriction for pedestrian vehicles or regular vehicles not to turn left northbound onto Wall Street. The delivery vehicles and whatever else will be allowed to turn left from Wall Street onto
Northbound.
from Vine Street onto Wall Street. Yes, turn northbound onto it. Yep. So there's a.
So what's the length of this enclosure that we're talking about here on Vine Street today? Do you
I
remember
can't
what that
recall
was? Can
off
you
the
show
top
us
of my
that?
head. I want to say it's something like 16,
15,
17 feet long.
And we can't find it's probably 187 feet long on Wall Street, and so we can't.
It's a probably about 10 by 10 square today
Back to the color plan.
on Wall Street.
Sorry, they want to see the length.
The question is, right there, that image in the middle, why can't we replicate that on the south? So you have one on the north, one on the south, recognizing there are some compromises, loading, whatnot. Why can't that work?
We wouldn't be able to turn a truck onto Wall Street at that and load them from Wall Street. Which would be another
site plan.
Because of the
Severe
street width or the curb radius? Because it seems like you
all
could,
of the
You're
above.
pulling your curb way out into the street anyway. though.
Well, yeah, why can't this just be a little bit longer and put that thing here?
So that is a kind of a misnomer because the smaller portion that's there is depressed. It is what we're calling a check apron, so it doesn't sit up as high as a sidewalk.
Here,
So we only have about 10 feet, right? We only have about 10 foot from the back of curb to the building face. Whereas
but
up the north side.
you've got less than that here, and you're saying put the trash thing here. Why can't you put it here?
Because of the presence of all those other underground utilities that I spoke to earlier and the
vaults.
the vaults.
With the
Wait a
vehicles
minute,
were in it.
this is, but you're not gonna go down, I mean, it's really just a fenced area. I mean, what, can't you build right over your utilities? Why do you care about that?
Don't be like.
Obviously not the electric, but no, but if there's a sewer line down there, I mean, the downside is you remove, take the wall out, do your.
Right,
repair.
so today we can't put it over the new ventilation bolts and the stuff
Okay,
that
I
are
get
for the
that.
electric in that area.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
Matt, how about this idea? What if you made the north one bigger?
Then we're splitting between two different property
I know, but
owners.
the ones on the south are closer to the loading dock on the North Market anyway. I'm just looking for creative solutions here. I know you're in a pinch, by the way. We're throwing darts at you and you have a hard one to solve. I get it, but is it geometrically, physically possible to do that? Make the north one bigger?
No. No, because if we made the north one bigger, then we would be pushing those stairs farther to the south. When we push them farther to the south, then when they come down, they will block a door,
Got it.
and we can't block a door.
Okay.
It
So-
sounds to me like they've spent a lot of time going through all of these alternatives, and my guess is they realize all the same kind of constraints that we're kind of chewing on, all the wish list items that we might want to get to, but.
Yep.
And there's a reason they can't do it, but, so I see two options here today. One is we approve it the way it's submitted, and then I guess we don't like it, but it's just something that happens in an urban area. Or number two, we say, we say no, and then ask them to go look at it some more and then come back, and then chances are we will have the same discussion in a month or 2 months, whatever it is. Are you under a time constraint on this thing? I know everything is signed.
So- Always under time constraints.
Yeah, okay.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to align everything with the opening of the merchant building so that
Yeah.
when construction is completed in the area, construction is
Yeah.
completed. It's not being dragged out project.
And I've been watching that. They're gonna be done in the next 30 to 60 days, aren't they?
Ah, I can't remember what the date was. I want to say it's sometime in 2026.
Yeah, right, okay.
We did just bid the streetscape project. We opened those bids last week.
Yeah.
We're currently evaluating those to
Yeah.
determine who we're gonna award it to so that
Sure.
we can continue through our process to.
But I don't think this is gonna, one way or the other, is gonna hold up your street improvement thing.
Well,
So I think we got two alternatives for everybody. This is the way I'm seeing it. One is that we approve it as is, or one we say basically, come on back here and let's talk about it a little more. And you guys look at it. What's everybody,
My
we can just
sister-
vote if you want to.
If we come back here, they'll have to go first back to the HRC and
for any change.
for any changes, because they were pretty specific, approval with the condition of option D design. And if we stray from that, then they'll have to go back to HRC.
So they really can't go back to new one and come back to us without having gone.
Correct, it
It's
triggers
different
the
again
whole
where we
process.
are.
I think you need to also think about property owners, not necessarily just the merchant building.
Yeah.
But the property owners across the street, because they're the ones who are making some sacrifice in order for this building to go up. So I think to be equitable, it's best to just let it go through as it is. When you're thinking about urban areas, if you go to New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, every place, they have these same issues around trash and the streets in the alleys.
Yeah.
And people are walking past it. So I know Columbus wants to be pristine and wants everything to be, look as it should,
Yeah.
but this is an urban area.
Yeah.
And we've got to take that into consideration.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for any more comments here just for a second, and then I'm gonna call for the questions here.
I had a comment.
Okay, so we're gonna go down. I did see a hand raised, and I'll get right back to you. Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
One of the property owners.
Yes.
He needs to
Could you
be.
come up, please, and identify yourself here? And we just have a little bit of a procedure now. Could you identify
Yeah,
yourself?
my name's Josh Greenberg. I own with my sister, the two buildings on the north end.
Okay, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I did.
I do.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Joshua.
I just want to make a comment because I've been listening to the whole thing and this whole process has been going on for years. And the property owners, we all did feel we were getting bullied because the new tower was going up. They wanted no trash on the streets, everything be removed, no trucks, no loading, so on and so forth. And we didn't think it was fair. We thought we were the ones that developed that area, especially not so much me, but a couple other guys had empty buildings and didn't. So it was a big cluster for a long time. between the developer and then us and the Department of Development, and then the Director of the Public Service Department. And we came to a compromise with all this stuff. So I think that, Matt has worked really hard on this and a lot harder than I know. But it's like, I think this was the way we thought it could work. It was a big sacrifice for us. We feel a big sacrifice. They probably feel it's a sacrifice because they wanted no trash. And at first, they claimed they were promised that by somebody in the city or whatever. And so it's just sort of worked out. I do think the one thing on Vine, I'm not sure if it's real clear, that's mostly, Matt can correct me on this, mostly going to be used for like empty totes. Like that's so they can go grab their tote, not really trash to be in there. There will be trash on the north side. We reduced our trash that we have now by 50% to compromise with the developer. And, we said you
Well,
can.
once you put the trash in the tote, where does it go? I mean,
Oh,
because then it wouldn't have trash in it, right?
The north is gonna have trash, with the regular dumpsters, and we're gonna keep coming by to pick it up. The other guys are gonna use either their own totes, they could have a tote, like some people can accommodate that, I believe, Harley's can accommodate that. The other guys don't have room, so they might keep a tote over there, or they might not use a tote. Developer wants them to use a tote, but look, realistically, you're gonna have guys at 2 a.m. just take bags of trash and go put it into the compactor. They're all using the compactor for their trash.
Across the street.
Yeah, so Vine is just a way to keep some totes.
It's a tote
Okay.
corral.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
is
you.
that right?
Essentially.
So your position is that you feel you've worked out something.
I mean, it was such a big deal. We have
Yeah.
a memorandum of understanding and
Yeah.
really, the Department of Public Service has been great about it.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Janet.
I understand that this has been a really difficult process. And I think maybe one way to look at it is that maybe we think that we're fine with the size of these enclosures and the placement of them, but that we want to see maybe more developed design with it because it is a very prominent, these are very prominent positions. And this is the front of a hotel. It's Vine Street. There's going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic. But I was also thinking when you said that was a corral on Vine Street, I had noticed that on Wall Street, under the stair, like when I looked at this before, it looked like there's some space here perhaps. And maybe if that's just a corral and those extra dumpsters are stackable, maybe they could be stacked, I don't know where placed.
But that's the wrong end.
Um,
That's the north end.
well, no, I just meant,
Okay, so in other words, they're
underneath the stair.
we're still hammering on different
But anyway,
possibilities. Yeah.
Anyway, I just think that once this is done, it's done, and it's going to be the front entrance of the hotel. It's going to be a big street for people to walking, and I think we could work within what the HRC, the concept of what they want, but maybe look at some other designs that might be more contributory or more aesthetic. And also maybe the idea of the inspiration for the railroad car, maybe look at a few other variations on that. But that's just my feeling that,
Sonia, did you have a thought then?
Now that we've heard from a building owner, my thought is like, they've been through a lot. Let's just move this along.
Trudy, did you have a thought?
I've already given you my thoughts.
Okay, and anything, Jeff? I mean.
Same.
Okay. Bob? We've heard your thoughts.
But
If you want to say, okay, anything else, Tom? Okay. Any other questions or comments from the audience? I'm going to call for the question with everybody's approval of that. All those in favor of the motion, which is to approve this application here, say aye. Would you raise your hands? And you can count. Melkus? That looks
We
like
do have
5. And all those opposed, say aye.
Aye.
And would you get that count? Okay. You have a vote, then.
Yeah, you do have.
Okay, it's approved. Thank you, Matthew. And sometimes it just is what it is. And I know that you folks have gone through a lot of effort. And by the way, these folks have gone through a lot of effort too. So, and we understand that. And, I guess in a perfect world, we could, we could all come up with something prettier or whatever it is. But you know what? When you get these built environments, you gotta work around what's there. So
I just want to recognize Matt too. I've had a little eye shot on this project and he's done a lot here, so thank you to Matt.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate everybody's comments. and
Okay, thanks very much. I
Thank you.
thought this would be kind of an easy one to knock. Okay, next case, please.
It's always the case when you think it's easy.
True, you're right. In New York, it would just be bags of trash.
Yeah.
We're getting more sophisticated.
So
By
I
the
don't
way,
think we want that.
we're gonna have a little street out there too.
Sure. It's my
Hey,
favorite.
thanks so much. Okay,
All right, so this is the last application today for 517 Park Street. This is where the AC Hotel is, and then there's like a little bar on top, and which is what we're talking about today with the signage. So 517 Park Street is located at the northwest corner of Spruce and Park Street. The applicant is seeking commission approval to reface an internally illuminated blade sign, which is 8 feet 4 inches from grade, and a 7-foot 5-inch by 7-foot 5-inch illuminated wall sign on the building's south facade. Both signs consist of white acrylic push-through letters on an aluminum base, and staff notes this application is also under review with HRC, which they did approve this application last Thursday. Submitted materials include a site plan, existing site images, site renderings, and site mounting. And quickly, just to show you, so basically the tenant of that rooftop restaurant is changing, and that's why they're refacing it. And since the top sign is so high up, that's why we're bringing it before the commission, because it's of a higher elevation there. But this is just getting a reface, and then there's a blade sign right down here that's getting refaced, same dimensions and everything like that. And then all the other graphics are staying the same. The applicant was just sort of calling out these different details.
Focus, I just had a question. There was something in the report.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about the blade sign to mount it with the mortar,
Oh, yeah,
But
I'll
I-
get to that.
doesn't that just remain and is it just being refaced or is it being remounted?
Yeah, it is just being refaced, so it just says here, reface existing sign. I think that was an added detail that I probably should have taken out of the staff report, because I now understand yeah, we should have taken that out because it's just refacing the sign, yeah. So in a nutshell, the guidelines state that wall and projecting signs are preferred, and that the installation should be reversible, which again, we're just refacing here, it's still 10 feet from the bottom. So this is all generally consistent. Thank you.
okay. Would the applicant please join us?
HRC approved this.
They did approve this from, yeah.
Or would you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Alex Barnett. I am the permit manager for Atlantic Sign Company, and we're working with HCA Hotels on this project.
Great. Would you raise your right hand? You swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Great. So show us what the existing condition is and what you're proposing to do, if you would, please, real quick.
Zoom in here.
And Belkis will probably help you. Okay, and that is on the side street there, that's on Park Street. Side street.
That's on the side.
And the size of
Yeah.
that?
So I'm from Cincinnati, so I'm not
All
super
right.
familiar with the
And the
street.
size, and the size of that sign is?
The size. Should say it right. It's 6.25 square feet.
So it's.
2'6" square.
Two,
2
two,
foot
two,
six.
About
by
2.5
56.
by 2.5.
so it's 30 inches by 30 inches.
Yeah.
Okay,
Existing.
let's go look at these one at a time. Any comments or thoughts on this? Is there a sign there right now? by the
Yeah,
way?
it's refacing the existing signs.
Is it every sign is getting refaced? Is that what we're looking at?
They're just
So-
the
so-
ones that relate to the rooftop.
Yeah, so Lumen Sky Bar used to be there. It's getting switched out with this Astra rooftop restaurant. And so there's two signs on the building that correlate to those tenants, and they're just literally swapping the faces of them. All the infrastructure, lighting, all of that is the same. They're just switching the faces out. Typically, that's something that can be staff.
And this is internally illuminated.
Correct, but since this one is at the top of the building, it's so high up, so it comes before the commission. And I just left the blade sign in, so it's one complete application instead of piecemealing this stuff out.
Okay, so we're gonna move on real quick. Anybody have a problem with the blade sign? Shall we move on to the other one then? Did you have a question?
Well, just it looks like the color is the same, the face color is the same as the existing.
No, I believe it's a currently a bluish gray, and this will have a black face.
Okay,
Oh,
So-
okay.
okay,
Oh, so the lumen here, this is.
Yeah,
this is
lumen is a
gray and
bluish
that's-
gray background, and this will be a black
Okay.
background.
okay, so up on the top, so then that's one, we're gonna move on to unless you know it. So now the next element is up here on the top, and that's the one up there. And again, so there is an existing sign up there that is
Yeah.
going to be replaced.
It's this
Okay,
one.
and it's the same size, same place.
Correct.
Okay, and that's black and internally illuminated?
Correct.
And does that face south, did you say? Or does
Yes.
that face west? That
This is south.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with that one? Okay. And that's what the application is?
That's it.
That's it.
That's what it
Are
is.
there any questions, any comments from Matthew? You get to tear this one apart if you.
Thank you.
I move approval as submitted.
Second.
That's pretty good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anybody? This is too easy. Let's take a break here and then. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And so there's just two more items on the agenda. One is to approve the staff approved applications into the record. And then we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of our common staff approval list. If you remember last year, we went through this whole process. And so I wanted to just throw it up on the screen, just to do a yearly check-in and, see if there's any feedback or if you feel like generally things have been going smoothly with staff approval. So we can start with the staff approved applications and do that motion.
There a motion to approve the staff approved applications, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Anything on here from Douglas? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that's approved.
And then this is, as a reminder, our design review common staff approval list. This is shared across the East Franklin Review Board and the University Impact District Review Board surrounding OSU's campus. And again, everyone has the same language, except there are some specifics for downtown. We have this, all of them can approve all graphics. And then for downtown, we do have the height stipulations, which you saw enacted today. And then there are some stipulations for UIDRB. But essentially, this is what we've been using for the last year. UIDRB is also finicky with windows because it's campus and there's a lot of different landlords that are doing funny stuff with windows, so it's very specific. But that's kind of where we are. Any questions, comments, concerns for the good of the order that I can take back to our administrator?
Focus, can you just remind me, when does HRC meet? Are they offset by 2 weeks?
Yeah, they meet the Thursday before this group meets, so they met last Thursday.
Got it.
So it's literally just 2 business day difference.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
I had a comment, some of these, like, I think it was under parking structures
Put it on there.
or
Parking
parking
facilities,
facilities.
yeah.
And like payment structure facilities. In the past, we've had some that were very innovative, very creative, almost like sculptural pieces. And
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead, sir.
wondering, like, maybe some of these are gray areas where when you see
Oh,
the submittal come in, if it's a very high design, that's gonna really impact the
that's a wonderful point, Jana.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
this is here, right?
Mhm.
But this is flexible policy. And so if I get an application and I'm like, okay, this is a payment kiosk incorporated into a sculpture, I would bring that before the commission. So there's a lot of discretion that staff across all boards and commissions, we have to take that trained eye. And although it is staff approvable, if it is a big impact item, then we bring it. So for example, I can look at landscaping, so minor landscaping and hardscape, but I feel like if it's a part of a bigger project, then I would bring it here. So for example, there are hardscape changes surrounding the elevated walkway, I brought that here. Or for example, today that blade sign, I could have piecemealed it out. Sometimes staff does that and they just approve a piece of it and then bring only the commission piece, but then you're losing the whole visual in the context. So that's why I brought both of those signs today, even though I could have approved just the blade sign. So that's the discretion that we always use and abide by, and it is sometimes a gray area. But all this gets run by, well, I'm a planning manager now, so it gets run by me. But then I always, confer with our assistant planning administrator and our planning administrator. So it gets an even higher level of review in this case for downtown.
I think this list seems to be working pretty well.
Okay.
Any thoughts or comments? Everybody all set with it? I'll tell you what, just for fun,
Yeah.
why don't you just email that to everybody and let's just take a look. And
Yeah, it
we
was
can do that.
emailed, so
Oh,
it's
did we get it?
included
Okay.
in your bundle.
Okay.
This,
I've been out of town, so I missed.
It's okay. I can always email it to you.
No, that's fine. I'll go. try to
It's on the
find it.
website.
I'm just saying, if anybody wants to look at it, feel free to look at
It
it.
is also, as Bob noted, on the Downtown Commission webpage, so anyone from the public can click on that and download it directly and reference that as they apply.
So
Okay.
can you also just really quickly
Yeah.
explain, like with the HRC, what your thinking is, like when something would come to us and when it would be staff approved?
No, it always comes before you.
Oh,
So this is a caveat, for East Franklinton and UIDRB. In those areas, if HRC approves something
Oh, I didn't
first,
realize that.
then it doesn't have to go to those commissions. HRC's vote stands alone and then it's approved fully. But downtown's different in that it still goes before the downtown commission because the input is valuable and the commissions do have a different flavor of how the lens through which they review things by. So sometimes if something gets approved through HRC, it comes here, y'all have a different lens and you add really valuable feedback. And if you were to table something, continue something, deny something, then it would trigger the process again. And sometimes that's needed. And with downtown being such a center of, culture and identity for the city, that's why we have it that way. So it still comes here to this group.
Okay, very good. You don't need any action on this thing.
No, it was just, I wanted to bring it up and discuss it since it's been a year. But
Okay.
this will be ongoing of just a little housekeeping every year. We'll have a little touch base on it.
Okay, any other items here that we need to?
That's it. We have a lot of stuff.
Any questions from anybody or
We can-
anything or comments?
Adjourn.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Stay cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. The meeting is adjourned. We don't need to vote on it.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Everybody have a good rest of the week.